Hi, my name is Nurul Aisyah binti Azlan from class A4AS12001B.
My name is Asma Izzati binti Mustafar and I'm from AS12001B.
And my name is Nurul Zarina binti Kajali and I'm from AS12001B.
Hello, my name is Atira Azriza binti Muhammad Azhar.
Hi, my name is Faris Natasha.
Today, I'm going to talk about glandular epithelium, exocrine, and endocrine, which is the subtopic of epithelial tissue. So, for introduction, animal tissue is a tissue from Latin word tese, which means weave, from a group of cells that work together to carry out one of several functions in organisms such as plants and animals. These cells communicate and adhere to one another by direct cell-cell contacts and through intermediary molecules like those that form the extracellular matrix. Epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue forms a tightly packed cells continuous layer or sheet covering a body surface or lining organ and body cavity. The epithelium's function as a barrier protecting against mechanical injury, invasive microorganisms, and fluent loss. Epithelium lines the internal cavities and external surface of the body. It performs a variety of functions that include protection, secretion, absorption, excretion, filtration, diffusion, and sensory reception. Glandular epithelium, a group of tissues other than the covering and lining epithelium which is specialized for production and secretion of various macromolecules. It also known as secretory epithelium. Glandular epithelium is arranged into structures known as glands, which can either be a single cell or a group of cells. There are a variety of glands releasing substances that perform important roles in the human body. The shape of cells of the glandular epithelium can range from cuboidal to columnar. The glandular epithelium of the endocrine glands is rich in the vascularization. The secretory cell may synthesize, store, and release proteins in the pancreas, lipid, adrenal, sebaceous glands, or complexes of carbohydrates and proteins. The cells of some glands have little synthetic activity and secrete mostly water and electrolytes ions transferred from the blood. There are two types of glandular epithelium, which is exocrine and endocrine.
So today I will talk about the function of glandular epithelium. Exocrine glands secrete watery mucus that helps to reduce body temperature and maintain homeostasis. Second, the glands like the sebaceous glands and the ceruminous glands secrete oily substances that help lubricate the surface of the covering epithelium, providing protection against water loss and microbial invasion. Third, the salivary gland in the mouth and digestive glands in the small intestine produce digestive enzymes that helps in the digestion of food and aid the absorption of nutrients. And fourth, the hormones secreted by the endocrine glands regulate many metabolic and physiological activities to maintain homeostasis and the proper functioning of the animals. Next, the glands like the pituitary and the thyroid glands are responsible for the overall growth and development of the body. 6. The adrenal glands regulate the metabolism, immune system, the blood pressure, and respond to stress among other essential functions. 7. The ovary and the testes of the reproductive system produce the gametes necessary for sexual reproduction. The thymus gland in the thoracic cavity is responsible for the production of T cells required for the removal of foreign antigens from the body.
Now, here we go to the location. The main component of the secretory portion of glands, the portion which produce and secretes the secretory product. Some bigger exocrine glands include the salivary glands. It can be found as a secretory sheet of cells lining the inside of an entire organ such as stomach. It also be found within endocrine glands, which are the ductless glands that secrete hormones into the blood. For exocrine glandular, secretory parts release contents into cavities connected to excretory ducts. This duct drive the substance released to the exterior. The excretory ducts, made of simple or stratified cuboidal epithelial, connect to secretory portions with body surface depending on the gland sizes. It can become complex in morphology and classified based on branching patterns of the ducts and the organization of the secretory portion. The production of the center of the release products are the secretory cells. For secretory cells, cells release its products in different ways, directly to the exterior or excretory ducts. It is also releasing its products in three different ways of secretion. First, merocrine, when substances are released by typical exocytosis. Second, apocrine, when the apical domain of secretory cells is broken up into smaller pieces and are released along with vesicles that contain the secretory products. Third, holocrine, when cell breaks down and the whole cytoplasmic content is released. Now, here we go to endocrine glandular. It releases products such as hormones and protein to their extracellular space and do not have excretory ducts. These products are delivered to different parts of the body by crossing through the blood vessel walls. Endocrine glands combine themselves and form the diffuse endocrine system.
Today in this video, I want to talk about cystic fibrosis disease. So in this video, I will talk about the tissue that involved in this disease and also the cause of the cystic fibrosis. But first, let me introduce to you what is cystic fibrosis. It is genetic disorder that causes mucus to build up and damage organs in the body, especially the lungs and the pancreas. So the tissue that involved in cystic fibrosis is first exocrine gland. It is released their content through a duct that leads to the epithelial surface. A few examples for exocrine is mucus, sweat, saliva, and breast milk. The second tissue that involved in this disease is endocrine gland. It is released their secretion or hormone directly into the bloodstream. So example in the endocrine gland is pituitary gland, pancreas, adrenal gland, thyroid gland, and parathyroid gland.
Okay, so for my part, I will explain about the structure, function, and also the location of cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. But first of all, we know that cystic fibrosis is caused by the mutation in the gene that produces the CFTR protein. This protein is responsible for regulating the flow of salt and fluids in and out of the cell in different parts of the body. Mutation in the CFTR gene cause the CFTR protein to malfunction or not to be made at all, leading to a buildup of thick mucus, which in turn leads to persistent lung infections, destruction of the pancreas, and complication in other organs. Okay, so now I will explain about the structure of the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. The CFTR protein is composed of 1,480 amino acids, the building blocks of all proteins, and it is located on the surface of many cells in the body. The CFTR protein contains a single of amino acid that are grouped in 5 functional regions called domains. Okay, so now we move to the function of cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. CFTR is the gene which encodes the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator, which is a membrane protein. Its function is to transport chloride and other negatively charged ions like thiocyanate ions from inside of the cell to the outside, which is into the extracellular space. Okay, so for the last part from me, I will explain about the location of the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. The CFTR is defective in cystic fibrosis. This protein is a channel that sits on the surface of the cells and transport chloride and other molecules such as bicarbonate.
Next, we move on to the cause of cystic fibrosis. The first cause of cystic fibrosis is the gene that passed to child from their parents. This is because parents will carry at least one copy of the recessive CFTR gene.
There are two types of symptoms. First is respiratory signs and symptoms. Here is the symptoms. A persistent coughs that produce thick mucus, wheezing, exercise intolerance, repeated lung infections, inflamed nasal passages or a stuffy nose, and recurrent sinusitis. Next is the digestive signs and symptoms.
Okay, now my part is I would like to present about the effect of cystic fibrosis. CF affects various organ systems in children and young adults, including first, respiratory system, second, gastrointestinal system, and third, reproductive system. But how does CF affect the respiratory system? The abnormal electrolyte transport system in CF causes the cells in the respiratory system, especially the lungs, because the lung is to absorb too much sodium and water, and this is make number one, the lungs to become very thick and hard to move, and second, develop a chronic cough, and third, blood in sputum, and fourth, often have a collapsed lung. Okay, now I would like to talk about treatment. Treatments for cystic fibrosis, medicine for lung problems. People with cystic fibrosis may need to take different medicine to treat and prevent lung problems. This may be swallowed, inhaled, or injected. Number one, you can use a medicine for lung problem, include antibiotic to prevent and treat chest infections. That's medicines to make the mucus in the lung thinner and easier to cut up. For example, Dornes alpha, hypotonic, saline, and mannitol dry powder medicine.